Do we need to accept that life is suffering?
Every passionate person is actively in the process of destroying themselves.
So our personality is not a representation of our true nature.
Pain is mandatory. Suffering is optional.
What's that line between art being something that like feeds us and when does it become this vain or superficial pursuit?
Emotion will go out of control if it's unchecked. What checks it? Reason.
Am I shy? Am I nervous? Somewhat. I feel it, but that's why I knew I had to come on, because you got to overcome it, haven't you? So, yeah. I had this question on my mind, and it's partially a disagreement, partially just a confusion. I was going to ask it last week, but I thought I'd ask it this week.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, I saw online the other week, it was Jordan Peterson. I'm sure you guys have heard of him quite a bit. And he said quite confidently, life is suffering. And he said, there's no doubt about that as well. And I thought, it's quite a bold statement to make, right? So, and I thought about that, and I recognize that you talk a lot about, overcoming it via going with the flow, understanding yourself, introspection, etc. That's really, really useful. I thought it's been really, really useful for me as well. And however, there are some exceptions that I feel like that are sort of more biological clashes. Like I thought of a couple examples, like being alone, for example. The human doesn't want to be alone. Humans want to be with other people and connect. That's what keeps you alive in a way. And that therefore being alone or dealing with loneliness can be a big problem for a lot of people because it feels like you're fighting that biology, right? Same with being ill, like that's classical. Your body's not in a happy state. How can you deny that in a way? How do you get through that? It feels like it's biological. Again, I think one more example was getting up early in the morning. That's a classic because even if you want to go and read a book or you want to get up and go to what you really want to do something, it feels like that first moment of being awake at 5 in the morning is just like, no, I want to be asleep. That's it. That's my biology telling me that. So I totally recognize the things that are, in your own head, and you can sort it out via introspection and find a way to not resist anymore and just go with the flow and figure it out and understand. That's great. However, some of the things that I feel like I disagree at the moment on is those more biological things, the things your body doesn't want to do, your mind does not want to do. It feels like that's objective. Your body does not want to get up at 5 in the morning when you want to go to sleep, And I did a little bit of research on the answer, or what the answer could be. And one of them was train the body to serve the mind and train the mind to serve the self. That's one perspective. And I believe Jordan Peterson said, he quoted Nietzsche, I believe, the person who has a why can bear any how, he said. I'm sure that's paraphrasing a bit, but it's about having purpose. That was one of the perspectives, and having that sense of meaning. It gets that it's less painful to get up in the morning, And then I've had a question, what do you think about this? Do we need to accept that life is suffering on one level? I genuinely wondered what you and the rest of this chat thinks about that. So, yeah.
Well, first of all, thank you for coming here and speaking up. I believe for the first time, right? And so you've done the opposite of what nervousness, which is just one of our many forms of fear, has told you to do. And that's literally the most fundamental human victory that you can ever have as a human being, if you think about it. In the physical realm, there are different levels to what we call courage, right? And there are smaller things to overcome and bigger things to overcome. But in the realm of ideas, in the realm of your mind, your intellect, where it's not physical, such as nervousness, any kind of fear, any kind of whatever, it's all the same thing. It's the most amazing thing when you think about it. The smallest fear is of the exact same nature as the so-called largest fear that you can imagine. It's all of the same nature, of the same spirit. And when you overcome one, you have overcome all. If you don't see the artificial differences in different kinds of fears, that's important. Because if you say, oh, yeah, I overcame this, but this is different. No, if you would apply the same exact method, one solution to fear is the solution to all fear, period. And that's one of the most amazing realizations one can have. Because in the spiritual realm, as one of our friends, Meister Eckhart says, who was a sort of a Christian mystic, right? He said, in the realm of ideas, wanting is having. Only in the physical realm, in our so to speak day-to-day, like you also spoke about, illness, things like that, the physical things. Only there is there such a thing as wanting and then not yet having, and having to go get, and succeeding in going and getting, or failing in going and getting, and the million reasons that can happen or not happen. But in the realm of ideas, wanting is having. As soon as you overcome fear, there's no such thing as you need to wait another 4 years and get your certificate of having overcome fear, proving it to a bunch of people through exams, through whatever. There's no such thing. As soon as you overcome it, you have it. As soon as you want it, you have it. And that is somewhat connected, I think, to what you were talking about. Because it's 100% true that life is suffering. If life is suffering. In other words, as soon as you say it is suffering, you have suffering. It's true, because if you say life is suffering, life is suffering. There's nothing inside of you, or there's nothing in the universe that is going to argue with you on anything that you do or say or think. If you say life is suffering, you have made it suffering. It's reality. And it truly is reality, because that's how you will look at the world. And you mentioned loneliness, for example. Loneliness is, again, a physical phenomenon, at least in the way that you're talking about it, right? That when you have other people around you, you're not alone anymore. Of course, you can still be lonely when you have other people around. But there are so many people who choose to live by themselves, who choose to not have anyone around them, and who are happy like that. They're not trying to escape something. They're not traumatized. They're not trying to get away from things that way. They're just genuinely happy. And if people come into their lives, they're fine with that too. They're not running away from people, right? But their comfortable state, ideal state, where they feel a lot of joy, is more on the secluded side, more on the maybe not seeing people on the daily basis, certainly not living with someone together. There are people like that. So when we say loneliness is bad and loneliness is something that a human being does not want, well, then it becomes exactly that to all those people who cannot stand to be by themselves. But again, what about the people who prefer that? Again, not those people who are unhealthily running away from society and are actively hiding from people and they despise people. I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about the people who are genuinely at peace, at ease, and they choose to live by themselves. Although, again, once again, if they need to go into society, so to speak, not that they're necessarily outside of society, but whenever they need to interact with people, and sometimes they'll want to interact with people, they will do that at peace and at ease and with pleasure as well. They just slightly prefer to generally live more to themselves than with other people constantly. So loneliness is
Yeah.
the way you look at it. If you like living by yourself, it's just being by yourself. If you don't like it, it is loneliness. And
Okay. I
and you
think I
can
get it. Yeah.
suffer from the exact same thing that someone else prefers. You see what
Yeah.
I
So
mean?
it's whether you call it suffering or not. It's whatever you call it.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
not
think
just
maybe
calling it
in.
all, of course, but also actively having the world view that says, just one of the many examples, life is suffering or loneliness is a bad thing to be avoided at all costs. This is a worldview, not just saying it, right? But you're saying it because it's your worldview, the people that do so. And so whatever your worldview is, that will be your world view. I mean, nothing
So
is
it's not
more
about
obvious
just
than
what you
that.
say. It's about your your genuine beliefs and your whole you know field of it, all your subconscious and all that sort of stuff. Would you say the same applies for like physical pain and being ill, etc.? Because I feel like I understand that you're coming with this from a sense of like perspective, right? It's about your perspective on your scenario. However, with something like physical pain, I feel like it's more objectively negative. It's more fundamentally negative. Same with being ill. I feel like it's more fundamentally negative than something like being lonely. What do you think about the way to sort of navigate those sort of things with your philosophical viewpoint?
Well, it's like our friend Marcus Aurelius points out, right? He says, pain is mandatory, suffering is optional.
Hmm.
And so pain as a physical phenomenon is not in your control, right? Not truly in your control. You can avoid certain pains, but you cannot say, I will never have pain in my life and it be so. It's not going to happen, right? So pain as a physical phenomenon, as a physical happening, is going to occur. It's mandatory. But suffering is optional. And what I believe he means by that, and what I take from that, is that, and there are many examples of this in history, where people willingly go out of their way to experience pain, and what others would call suffering, for something that seems to be more important than pleasure, or whatever the opposite of pain is, the absence of pain. Anyone who goes into war, for example, in history, like all those millions, maybe at this point, billions of people who have, not because they were forced to, but because they truly wanted to, in their mind, whatever they were defending, right? Their country, their culture, their family, whatever they were doing. They said, me not experiencing pain is not as important as what I'm setting out to do. And so they are willingly putting themselves in so-called harm's way, for the lack of a better term, whether this is war, whether this is also illness, right? Whatever it may be. And so if you would ask them if they're suffering, even though they're experiencing pain, even though they're literally in war, they're fighting, they're battling, they're putting themselves at risk, already have put themselves at risk and paid the price in many ways. If you ask them, are you suffering? To say, no, this is the most important, most meaningful thing I've ever done in my life. Right?
Oh,
Vice
okay.
versa. There are people who are not experiencing any pain whatsoever, never really have, who are suffering. Because they say they're suffering. You can go up to a person and say, hey, it's not true. That person didn't really say that about you. Like that, it was just a misunderstanding, and you don't need to suffer from thinking that you are unloved by this person that you very much value. They'll say, no, they really did mean that, and this is the worst thing, and I've given so many years to this person, I've given my life, I've done this and this and this and this for them, and they're not appreciating it, or I'm still not good enough, and they'll suffer. Okay, and there's nothing you can say, there's no pain present. And I kind of made it about some sort of relationship there, but it's the same thing with pain. There are people who suffer from experiencing pain that they're not actually experiencing. There are people like that also, right? And pain in all kinds of ways. And so it's all about intention, and yes, you can call that perspective also. Whose perspective, or what, the perspective of what are you making your own? What perspective are you applying to the situation, to life in general, to existence in general, to your particular biography, to other people's? What perspective are you applying, right? There are so many people who, and we've talked about this a lot in the past weeks, about the concept of evil, right? There are so many people, in fact, most people, who believe in the concept of evil. In other words, who genuinely believe that people who do wrong, who cause any kind of physical injury, or who deprive other people of resources, that they do that knowingly, with full intention, and with no other goal in mind other than to cause suffering. Right? There are people who genuinely believe this. And so when you're looking at other people, when you're assigning other people this role in your life, of course you are surrounded by enemies. You're surrounded by people who wish to do you harm, or to do others harm, to do the world harm. You've surrounded yourself with enemies. And as I always say, this is not to say that there is no wrongdoing in the world. Of course there is. But does it come from a clear understanding of what these people are really doing? That they're all knowing, all seeing, and don't have any opinions. They only have right beliefs. They know exactly what their actions are going to lead to. They're always going to receive the outcome that they were looking for? Or is it more likely that these people are making a mistake? That they're misguided, that they're ignorant, that they're missing some kind of information, that they've never been taught something that you do know, and therefore you can see their wrongdoing when they can't? Which one is more likely? Right? And so here you can see which way you go, right? Are you literally going to assign every single person who's ever done anything wrong in this world, which is many, many, many people, right? All of us have done something wrong in our lives, are doing something wrong right now in some way, and will do it again at least one more time, if not hundreds of more times. And so where are these people coming from in terms of intention? That's up to you. It truly is up to you, because no one knows. There's no one who can give you some sort of irrefutable, scientific, whatever you would need, right, in evidence. There's no one who can say, proof. This is why all wrongdoing is being done. There's no one who can say that. It is your decision to go with what you believe, what seems most reasonable to you, what seems most realistic to you, and also what seems most aligned with how you want to be in this world, in terms of, do I want to be kind? Do I want to be loving? Do I want to be tolerant? Do I want to be understanding? Or do I want to be a harsh person? Do I want to judge people? Do I want to punish them? Do I want to make war on everything that's wrong? This is all you. You see that? This is what I mean. And necessarily this is called perspective, because I might believe and I might die for the idea that there is no such thing as evil. And there's someone else going to be who's just as convinced that there is such a thing as evil, and they will die for that idea. So who's right, who's wrong? Okay. For you, you need to decide that. But so those people who have decided that life is suffering, they're 100% correct. I would never argue with them, because their life is suffering. It's 100% true. I see it the same way. But if you ask me, what is life? I would never say life is suffering. And that's up to me to do or not to do. It has nothing to do with anyone else. I'm not judging anyone else when I don't say that life is suffering. And they have no impact on me when they say life is suffering. They have the full right to say that, right? And we, as all humans, this goes for everyone, this goes for me and you and anyone else, we all have the right to be wrong. We all have the right to be wrong. The only thing we don't have the right for is to impact another person's ability and their freedom, right? To me, this is the definition of freedom. To do whatever you want as long as it does not impact anyone else's ability to do whatever they want. That, to me, that's the definition of freedom. And I thought this was the actual definition until I looked into dictionaries. It doesn't say that. It just says the liberty to do whatever one wants. Not true at all, right? But so to me, that's the true definition of freedom. And as long as your actions are within that framework, right, you do whatever you want as long as it doesn't affect the ability of someone else to do whatever they want, right? Then you can do whatever you want. And to say that life is suffering, to look at the world that way, to have that worldview, is 100% within your freedom. And so you're absolutely right.
Oh, okay.
Anyone who believes that life is suffering is 100% right. And anyone who believes that life is not suffering, that something else, this or that, they are 100% correct as well. Because everyone makes their own world. This is another privilege that we have as all humans. And even someone who says life is suffering would have to agree with that. All of our common privilege is that we can make life the way we want it. We can make our own world because we do. We all do. And so what you want your world to be is 100% up to you. You are the creator of your own world. And this is what philosophy is. Philosophy is a group of suggestions that has taken many people, in many cases, a lifetime to come up with. And they've written it down or somehow passed it on, the ones that did, for you to consider them. And the very act of considering them and adopting them or not adopting them, putting them aside, is the act of doing philosophy. To me, that's all it is, fundamentally. And so
you're saying that, So you're saying that it's about taking things into your worldview. When that's interesting because when Jordan Peterson said that, it's very easy to blindly believe certain people on topics when they say a lot of things that resonate correctly, but also it makes sense because if his worldview is all maybe if he's very strictly biological, he says life is suffering because of death, etc., all that sort of stuff, then that is still taking into his worldview. It's not just his beliefs, it's everything else as well. It's what he's taking in subconsciously, and then eventually you decide for yourself, whether knowingly or not, that there is suffering, and navigating it like that's really interesting. I thought what you said about distinction between pain and suffering is really critical there, because I remember I was reading a book, it's just up there actually, and it talked about arrows, and it said that getting shot by the first arrow of pain is out of your control. It's inevitable. However, getting shot by the second arrow, which is suffering, is within your control. And he said that you can choose, on a fundamental level, you can choose whether or not you want to be hit by the second arrow or not. And then I suppose when you were distincting between those two scenarios and saying how someone who's not going for any physical pain can experience a lot of suffering, they haven't been hit by the first arrow, they've just been hit by the second arrow. that's the easy part in a way. It feels like, you know. But yeah, very interesting stuff. I really appreciate everything you've said there. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question. And I would urge you, I would recommend that you just keep thinking about it and don't take anything for granted. Even when we say pain is mandatory, there are a lot of associations that come with it. A lot of people think pain is bad. Okay. And I'm not saying pain is good. Okay. I'm not saying anything. That's the point. That's the point. We all should consider everything from zero. Don't, when you for the first time in your life, consider the nature of pain, what it is to you and what it means to you, and if it's desirable to you or not, whatever it is, right? Whatever you're considering at the time. Don't take in your subject for examination as being pain is bad. Just take pain. Don't take the things that come with it generally, right? And that's the most difficult part, to make the obvious less obvious, right? Because we just take that in, pain is bad. Of course, how could pain possibly? And so we take in the statement pain is bad, and then we consider that, right? But just if you're looking at things bare bones, if you're looking at what is behind them, if you're looking at as a concept, as an idea, which is the purest form of anything, right? Take in pain and pain only, and say, what is its nature and what is it to me? Is it something to be actively avoided? Is it something to be chased? Or is it neither? As the ancient Stoics, for example, as well as many others say. Is it maybe an indifferent, meaning neither good or bad, that it becomes good or bad depending on its use, for example? Right? The classic example to this always is wealth, money, resources, whatever you want to call it. Certainly, if you look at resources themselves, for example, such as money, you can't really say it's good or bad, right? Because you see money being used very well, and it's doing a lot of good. And you see money being used very, very wrongly and poorly, and it can be very damaging, at least physically, right? And so that's a perfect example where, against people such as the Stoics would say it's an indifferent. It depends on its use. If you use money well, it's a good thing for that time and that time only. If you use it poorly, it's a bad thing. And so maybe is pain like that too? I don't know. I'm generally just suggesting it, right? For every person to consider themselves.
It feels like pain is. I think I was mistaking pain for not being indifferent, maybe, because it feels like pain is the most, or being ill, something along those lines. Something that is directly almost attacking your body. It feels like it is objectively bad on a biological level. It's the closest thing to negative. You know, that's what it feels like. So maybe I sort of, you know, bought into that in my own worldview, maybe on a subconscious level. But I suppose being open to the idea that it is indifferent on a fundamental level, that it can be used for a good thing. As you said about war, the person who was, or, you know, they wanted to go and serve their country, they were in a lot of pain, but they were not suffering.
Right.
Yeah, so there's a interesting idea.
You're absolutely right. We just assume these things, and that's the number one enemy that you can possibly have. To just assume, to just take on because this person said it, or, you know, society demands it, or this or that. We have so many reasons for doing this, right? But that's another part of philosophy. That's another way of saying the work of life, of defining it, as we always do with many different definitions. This is one thing, to not take on things and to look at them for yourself each and every time as much as you can. You know, if someone told me that something bad is going to happen to you, like your life is going to end unless I go through this amount of pain, right? I would do that for you. I would go through that pain because I would say, hey, he doesn't need to die. Just, you know, if I'm to suffer this kind of pain, suffer as an undergo, as in suffrage, then I'm totally willing to pay that price, and I would do it gladly, right? I think we would all do that for each other. And so I can't be said to be suffering then. I'm doing it gladly. I'm doing it for a reason. I'm doing it not because I'm forced to at all. It was my choice. And I'm not doing it so that you owe me anything afterwards. I truly, genuinely don't see the point of another human being dying if all I have to do is go through a lesser amount of pain for a certain amount of time. I just don't see the point in that. And so reasonably, logically, I would say, hey, I would choose to do that, although also knowing that I have no requirement, no obligation to do that, right? And this is another way of saying this is philosophy, to get your intention right, to get your expectations right, to not have any judgments, to not have any expectations, to not have any demands, to not look for things in return. This is how you attain your freedom, because you're freeing yourself. Expectations, obligations, requirements, other people's opinions, these are all things that stand between you and your freedom, your peace. If I did that to get something in return from you so that you're in debt to me for the rest of your life because I saved your life, then I was suffering by doing that, because I was essentially doing it against my will. And especially if you're not grateful to me afterwards, I'm going to feel like I did it for nothing. And I'm not only going to suffer during the pain, but afterwards too, because I'm going to regret it. I'm going to suffer in the form of regret for that pain. You see what I'm saying? But if I did it with the right intention, I'm neither going to suffer during that pain, nor ever after that pain, nor before that pain in anticipation. So this is what I'm trying to point out pretty much every week in a different way. Intention, expectation, understanding that there are no requirements, there are no obligations truly in the spiritual. There are physical requirements. If you're a parent, you have certain physical duties that you need to fulfill. But spiritually, for the lack of a better word, there is no such thing as a requirement. There's no such thing as a duty. But so many things that we do out of a false understanding, out of an illusionary understanding of some sort of duty that we have to someone for some reason, and we don't even really know, we just do it. And so the more we do those kinds of requirements and duties and obligations, the more we resent the people we do it for, even, as well as life as a whole. And that's one of the reasons why we say that life is suffering. One of the reasons. There are so many, right? And so it's endless, the amount of freedom potentially that you can gain from having your intentions right, unburdened, I should say, not right or wrong, but literally unburdened. So many people burden themselves with intentions and requirements and obligations and expectations and outcomes that they're quite literally weighed down all the days of their life. And this is objective, it's unnecessary. It is not necessary. So I hope that makes a little bit of sense. I know I didn't answer your questions directly, but there is no direct answer, in my opinion. It's this whole worldview is a good word for that, right? Because there's literally a world that goes into your worldview. It's a whole thing. There are no parts of it that you can say. It's sort of the sum of things, and all I can give you is sort of a glimpse into how I look at the issue. But again, it's all up to someone else, and the most important thing is to not judge anyone else. I would never judge anyone for saying that life is suffering, right? Because it's none of my business. It really isn't. And also, when I judge someone, I am holding them to my particular personal standard, just like as they're doing the world, right? And so we need to love everyone. We always say that, right? And to love is simply to wish well. To love is not to approve, to actively support necessarily, and it's certainly not the romantic kind of, like, when I say love everyone, it's certainly not that. It's just to wish well. Anyone who says life is suffering, or anyone who says life is pleasure, right? It's all about bodily pleasure or this or that. Whatever one might be able to say about life. I wish
They'd be
all of
both
those.
correct then.
Well, yeah, for
Yeah, if it's
they
something
have
like
the
this.
right to do it, rather. If I say
Ah,
it's correct, that's a judgment. If I say it's incorrect, it's a judgment. Rather, what I say is objective truth, which is they have the right to do it. And
okay.
and because they have the right to do it, and it's none of my business in that sense, as long as it doesn't affect me, right? That is why I wish them well. I wish them well. And to wish well, as we talked about quite a bit last week, is to say, I wish that you know right from wrong. I wish that you know good from bad. I wish that you know what awareness is and what unawareness is, and that you never fall into unawareness, that you're always aware. All these kind of things. I wish you well, truly. And that doesn't depend on anything other than my own worldview, anything other than my own intention, right? So many people think they can only love someone else if they do the so-called right thing, if they do this or that for them, if they have certain beliefs, if there's this and that. No, no one owes us anything, right? And so long as they don't impact our freedom to do whatever we want, we need to wish them well. And even if they do so, even people who are impacting or trying to impact other people's freedom, we need to wish them well as well, because it's totally separate than anything that's happening. To wish someone else well is entirely your action. It has nothing to do. You don't need anyone else to do anything for you to be able to wish the world well, so to speak. That's a worldview. You see what I mean? I would say
yes.
life is to wish well, is what I would say. And I wish everyone well. So that's how. So how can I say life is suffering if I wish everyone well? It's like impossible. It's a contradiction, right? And so if it's a contradiction, I can only have one. I will have that instead of the suffering. And I am. You see what I mean?
Yeah, so it's your worldview more. I feel
Yeah.
like worldview is a more sort of, it's a better term than the word perspective, because there's things that you can tell people and say, I am a kind person, I'm just, I'm this, I'm that. But oftentimes it can conflict with your worldview. You know, your worldview is all of it put together. Maybe that's the correct word and the correct way to think about it.
Exactly. So yeah, all you have to do, and when I say have to do, it's not, you don't really have to do it. If you want peace, if you want to know yourself, as the ancient Greeks say, know thyself, then you have to. So you don't really have to. If you want peace, then you have to look at everything as in its purest form that you can, and then take it up or leave it aside. That's all you need to do in this life, to build that so-called worldview and to have it make sense to you, and to have it for it to satisfy you, for it to give you guidance in your life throughout all the different things that will happen to you, the situations that will occur in your life, which you are not in control of. It will guide you through all of that. Whatever it is, whatever your worldview is, it will guide you through all of that. Right?
Okay.
All right.
Sorted. Nice. Thanks very much for that. I'll let other people speak now. I don't want to take up too much time, but
No worries.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Some fantastic conversation there.
Thank you. I appreciate it too. And I will move you back to the audience for now. Thank you again. That was once again universal and timelessly valid question, wondering, and something to explore. And this is exactly the point of all of this. And so we thank you for that. And thank you for speaking for the first time and not listening to little things that we call nervousness and all these kind of things. It's not at all necessary, as we just talked about. And I will, of course, directly invite our next speaker.
I actually have a few questions about question of the week, which was
I'll remind everyone again. The question of the week for this week, our new one that we have, is how does your personality benefit you?
I thought about it, and in the beginning, I thought, okay, so personality is probably something to do with traits, or like how would something that I do benefit me. So maybe like my characteristics, traits, stuff like that. But then a few days after that, I actually meditated about the question, and I got a completely different answer, like totally different answer. And what came to mind was that maybe it is actually to do with everything of removing yourself from the question. So maybe like even though the word personality has the word person in it, which is something to do with us, but what I thought was maybe it's actually nothing to do with us. Like it's actually everything internal and nothing about our traits, like characteristics, things that we physically like or that we think would benefit us. But I thought that maybe rather it's about what it makes us feel inside. So would you say that to really truly understand something like, or like a question like that, or a personal question, would you say that it's about actually removing yourself from the question, like making it non-personal? I hope you know, like I hope that makes sense.
No, it does. It does make total sense, and part of the intent behind the question of the week is just to see what it brings up within you. So there is not necessarily a right answer, and there's certainly no wrong answer that I can think of. So that it brought this up in you is very, very interesting. And whether I would define personality as something that we should, that is whatever remains once we take everything that seems so personal about us out of ourselves or not, I'm not sure, because maybe the concept of personality requires that we hang on to those personal things. But again, the way it makes you think is the real goal here, and that's where you're doing something very, very interesting. I don't think the real question is, is this personality or is that personality. The real question, and what you're doing with it also, which is great, is that you're thinking about what even is personality. That's what you're doing here. What even is it? What does it consist of? How is it built, or how is it made, or is it made, or is it something that we just are, that is given to, et cetera, et cetera? This is exactly what I intended us to be thinking about with that question. But however you define it, the question is not what is personality. The question is, how does or did your personality benefit you? Did you go on to think about that? How, whatever it may be, if it benefits you or not, or how it benefits you?
Yeah, I did, yeah. But like, would you say, like, I'm just curious kind of about what your viewpoint is, because I obviously think that when you ask questions of the week, you probably have an idea a little bit of what we're going to say, or you maybe try to make a question that is going to provoke some thought or deeper thinking in us. So yeah, just about this question again, like, do you think that if something is beneficial to one person, do you think that it matters that it's not beneficial to others? Like, do you think that it has something to do with how we perceive other people? Like, okay, like for example, in my philosophy class, we were discussing Hegel and his framework on consciousness, and we were just learning about how he has this whole theory of how the fact that one person is conscious that there's another human being and that the other human being is conscious, like the fact that there's now two people and one person's not alone, that is in itself consciousness, because you didn't realize that there's some sort of relationship between the fact that like, you're not alone, there's another, like you're conscious of the fact that there's another person there with consciousness. So do you think that when it comes to things like our personality and things that are about us, do you think that it's also an influence on other people, or it's like it's not just about us? Like, do you think it's also about how other people would see that, or how it impacts other people? Like, do you think it's directly just us, how we think things benefit us, or do you think it's also about looking a little bit more externally? Like, how would something of me affect someone else? Or how would it, like in the 3D of things, externally affect other people?
I think what I'll do is I'll answer that at the end once everyone else has sort of given me that, because I don't want to affect anyone else. And most importantly, because my answer is going to include exactly the question that you just asked. So I was intending on talking about that anyway. And so what I'll do is I think I'll just save it to the end, okay? But it will be addressed. I just don't want to have it be too leading, have other people's answers be led in a certain way just because I've said something. So I think we'll just delay that a little bit. But I do want to know from you, however you define, and the way you're thinking about it, I think is very interesting and is going to lead you to a lot of great insights, I think, for yourself, regardless of how you look at it or how you define it. What has been the benefit of your personality for you? How did it benefit you?
I don't know. Perhaps I would say overcoming certain things or growing. I think even when people struggle in life or certain things happen to us, I think even though we're technically never really a victim in situations, I think, it's dependent on how bad a situation can be, but I think most of the time we are able to control how we think, and if we can dictate if a situation is negative or positive with our mindset. But I think that in your personality, if you just have a good mindset, and you are just open-minded and kind, I think kindness is a great thing too. It's really easy just to be nice and be kind to people. I think especially you never know what someone's going through, or you never know if someone's faking their happiness or kindness, But I think just once again, internally, just knowing that people probably have their own things going on. So I think with that, just being a nice person, caring person, I think. Even though we did have a question of the week about being a loving or caring person, which is kind of funny, but yeah, I'd say being nice and seeing how far or where you can go with your personality, if it can drive you somewhere further, overcoming situations. And also when people say, oh, hey, I actually really like this, or hey, that was very nice of you, I think those are also reminders of, I don't think it's about that being a validation of, well, if everybody says I'm nice, I must be nice. But I think that's also a pointer, as like people see my intentions. So I think.
So you think your kindness and the way that you are kind and choose to do things is contained in your personality or comes from your personality?
I would say so, because I don't think there's any driving forces that want a certain outcome. I don't think there's, I think when somebody is truly kind within their personality, I might be wrong, but I think there are times when people are so truly kind in their personality that they don't do it for an outcome, or they don't do it for validation. It's just always within them. It's just how they operate, or they just choose to act more caring.
So you equate personality as the essence of you.
Yeah, maybe kind of like even our soul, even though you can change your personality, But I think initially when you do something without even thinking from your personality, I think, yeah, that is an inner sort of, like it's an inner instantaneous sort of response, which is probably unchanging. Like reactions aren't really something we can change or control. Like if we're walking down the street and someone runs up to us, like we get scared, right? We think, what are they doing? Are they gonna kill me? I don't know. So maybe it's also about that. It's just that instantaneous reaction or action they're gonna give.
Interesting. Okay. All right. So we collected that answer. I'll keep that in mind. That's very interesting. I wasn't thinking about it in that way. And this is the value of coming together and sharing these answers to the question of the week. That's why I think the question of the week thing has been really great, because we're adding to our collective understanding of things. Inevitably, we're going to think about things differently, and by sharing it, we get to all take from this common pool whatever we want of it. Of course, we don't have to take it all. And so when you think that personality benefits you, it's because you think your personality is the essence, your spirit. And so that is what's guiding you. So essentially, it's benefiting you by guiding you in life, right? So when a situation comes up and you have the option to be kind or not so kind or this or that, many other options perhaps, you go with kindness because that's your personality, that's your essence. And so effectively, that's what's guiding you in every situation. So that's an interesting way of looking at that, and I think that sounds pretty healthy to me. I mean, that's a nice thing, because we all want to be guided by something. There's nothing more anxious than a person who's not guided by anything and who has to face every situation essentially from scratch, without nothing to lean on, nothing to stand on. And I think that's the most scary thing one can experience in life. And in our times, I almost slipped into that like so many other people do. In our times, as if this is something new, I think it's always been the case that people are looking for guidance and they don't know what. They consider religion, but then they say, oh, but there's so many different religions. How am I going to pick, like, which one's right? Right? Or philosophies, which one's right? Or is it right to not believe in any religion, in anything, and to just be sort of a little bit of a rebel, of an atheist in the term of religion, whatever. But even within that, we look for peers. Like atheists look for other atheists. It's the most interesting thing to me. And we always look for a commonality with people. I say, oh, you're an atheist too, right on. Right? It's the funniest thing. As in interesting. But yeah, so we're all looking to be guided by something. And what that should be is yet another way, I think, of the work of life, trying to figure out what that should be. That's the work of life. Yet another definition. We should write these down. I think at this point I have like 50 definitions of the work of life. But it's interesting. It keeps coming up naturally in conversation. We say, well, that's the work of life too. That's the way of thinking about it. Well, yeah, that's very interesting. Thank you for sharing that. Did you have another question or anything else to share?
No, honestly, it was just that. But I'm excited to hear what everybody else has to say, because I know there's probably going to be different viewpoints, right? Different opinions, which I think is the best part about this kinship, is that people have different thoughts, and there's no such, it's not right or wrong. It's their truth. Everybody has their truth, which I think is really, really cool to see. So thank you for the question of the week. And yeah, I look forward to hearing more.
Me too. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I think that was very, very valuable. It was to me anyway. And I will move you back to the audience for now. Thank you for speaking however many times you did before. Thank you for doing it again. That was great. And I will invite our next speaker.
So the question I have, I did ask when I first joined the group, but it's just kind of such, I guess, an ongoing question for me and doesn't really have an answer. It's so open-ended. And part of it is like I do approach it just as an artist and like as a designer. It's something that I run into like ethically, like pretty frequently. And so I guess the start of it is that like, obviously most philosophers, and especially like Seneca and Stoics, really warn against things like pride and luxury. I think like pride especially as being, one of the most corrosive things that we can have. But there's also kind of this idea of, controlling your environment and like noble simplicity, and sort of the shaping of your environment and your actions being a training for your character, I guess. And so what I keep wondering as like an artist and as someone who loves, capital B beauty, I always say, beauty is like a bigger concept, is that can that sort of drive be used towards virtue, which I think we can see, but also like when does it tip over into vanity and pride? And I think so many artists and craftspeople, there is this drive for greatness or excellence or fixing something or expressing something. And, I think it can at times be, a civic beauty in a way of like, we look at architecture, we look at literature, we look at all of these things that I think for so many of us, like we've found these forms of art and craft, so helpful in a philosophical sense, it can express, other futures, it can express really abstract ideas. But I guess, yeah, just what's that line between, art being something that like feeds us and when does it become more like corrosive or poisonous or, just kind of this vain or superficial pursuit. Then the other question that I always like lean into is that like, we reap so much from the fruits of other people's, pursuit of greatness, whether that's a philosopher, whether that's an artist, whatever it might be. And I find it difficult sometimes to deal with, maybe this drive that we have for excellence, not perfection necessarily, but, maybe mastery, whether that's of ourselves or of something else. And, this terrible, corrosive pride that, we all have to defeat. And I just think it's funny. It's such like a timeless idea. And like real world examples that like I run into, like I often find myself thinking like, oh, like clothes or textiles these days are so ugly or, of such a terrible quality. And it's funny, like my dear friend was like, oh, like if you were born in the 70s or the 1870s and the 1370s, like you would still be saying the same thing. Like you would think that, Roman architecture is stupid or Gothic architecture. So I just find it so funny that, this seems to be something that we've all been struggling with forever. But that's my big open-ended question. I'm just so curious to hear people's thoughts on it.
I thank you. Thank you for that question because I think it truly is an excellent question. And I only say excellent because I think it objectively is a timeless and universal question. And that's what makes it excellent. Not that I like it so much or whatever, because that would be just judging it, right? I think you've asked that an objectively timeless and universal question, and that's why it's so great to consider for all of us. And to me, the answer to both of your questions actually combined because they both are concerning passions, right? And this is a word that has changed a lot. I've been thinking about that a lot lately. Passion used to mean extreme emotion, right? Extreme emotion, whatever that is. There's joy, and then there's extreme joy, which could be fanaticism. It could be some sort of delirium, right? In something. Certainly, the extreme form of discomfort in terms of emotional is anxiety, depression, worrying, right? And then there is wanting to add beauty to the world or something good or to improve something. And then there's ambition, right? Those are two different things. Ambition is a passion. And so this is what the word passion used to mean. Nowadays, we're passionate about our craftsmanship. It's like people will advertise for that. Or we're passionate about food. And that's supposed to get you to eat at that restaurant. If you had said that, I don't know, 1,000 years ago, people would have run away probably. It's like they're literally, these are crazy people. They've made themselves crazy through their extreme focus and infatuation with food or whatever it may be. It would have been a negative thing. Now it's a positive thing. You're supposed to be passionate about something. And if you're not passionate, you're just like listless person who is lazy, boring, not useful, doesn't add anything to the world. Quite the contrary. Passionate people, in the first and true sense, are literally not same. They're not same. They're, as we see in everything, whether it be sports or politics or literally anything, fanatics are literally, and this is not a judgment, this is, I'm objectively, scientifically saying, they are not sane because they don't know what they're doing and they don't know why they're doing it. That's where passion gets you. When you see, I don't know, it happens, for example, in Europe a lot after certain soccer games or World Cups or whatever, you'll see people like on the streets flipping over cars and burning things. If you would suggest that to that person before the game or a week before or at some other, whenever they're have their senses together and are being rational and reasonable, hey, would you ever flip some unknown innocent person's car over that they need to get to and from work, that they transport their children in, that they work so hard to maintain and is really going to put them in a bad spot if something happened to it? Would you, for any reason, flip that over and set it on fire or stomp on it? I say, no, why would I ever do that? You're literally going to do it. It's in your future, right? Or you have done it in the past. Why? Why? They don't know why. In the moment, they don't know why. And of course, outside of the moment, they don't know either. And they don't really know what they're doing, right? And so this is where the passions get us. This is the, a small example to a larger point. Every time an emotion turns into a passion, it pushes you into unawareness. It pushes you, a quaint way of putting it, into vice, right? That's another thing. That's another word that used to be taken seriously, and now it's sort of a funny, vice. Or virtue, right? Virtue is funny now too to a lot of people. But it's true in the sense that virtue is awareness. Virtue is intention. Virtue is everything that you can control and that you can do with full awareness. And virtue is reason, like we said before. And vice is the outcome of all your unreasonable action. Vice is suffering. Vice is unawareness. And vice is of emotion. Vice is not of reason. Every single vice that you can think of, that you can name, that you've ever fallen into, is of emotion. And again, the extreme of any emotion is passion. And I really want to bring that word back because it is so important. Otherwise, we just keep saying emotion. And then all these people, every time I say something negative about emotion, they say, but we're human. It's natural, it's normal. I'm not talking about that kind of emotion. I'm talking about the passion that we all fall into and that we will fall into if we don't understand the real nature of passion, what it does to us in terms of the difference between awareness and unawareness, right? You don't want to be unaware. There's not a single person on earth who would rather be in a coma right now than to truly live and to experience and to sense things and to see things and to understand things. There's no one like that. And so then you must not give yourself to passion. That's it. And so that's the guiding principle in everything. If you can do it without passion, it's fine for you to do, right? If you're an artist and you do it with passion, in other words, you get a thrill from it. You take pride in it. Again, in the original sense, not today, I take pride in this. No. Like it makes you proud and it makes you judge others. And whenever anyone else doesn't think so highly of what you produce as an artist, that you become angry, that you become resentful, all comes from the fact that you did it with passion. You can do the exact same art or whatever it is that you're doing in life without passion. And in fact, you can do it better. Because you will not be concerned with, oh, but this must be amazing. Because I'm an artist and I'm a good artist and I'm passionate about it and this is my everything, this is my identity, this is how the world sees me, this is how I prove myself in the world, this is what I'm going to leave to the world, this is how I make the world better, and all these things that you think you're doing. The stress and anxiety and anger and resentment and frustration and disappointment and just sheer hate and sadness that comes with that, inevitably, is you damaging yourself by giving yourself to passion, by letting passion happen. And passion will happen if you let it. It will. That's the point. Emotion will go out of control if it's unchecked. What checks it? Reason. And so this is all we ever say, but people always take it the wrong way in terms of thinking, oh, it's suppressing emotions. But it's denying one is human. No, not at all. You are barring yourself from joy in life by being passionate. Because you could look at art and any other thing that's beautiful and good and right and just and fair and true and loving in this world, and you could take joy in it. But rather, you take pride in protecting it, and you become hateful when it is at all being attacked, air quotes, and you resent every single person who doesn't seem to appreciate it or who doesn't support it the way that you do, and you judge everyone else for doing a better or worse job at continuing it, at protecting it, at improving it, at leaving something to the world. All these things, all of that comes from passion. And so when you ask where the line is, in my opinion, that's exactly where the line is. The line is wherever the line of passion is. As soon as you cross the line of passion, I don't care if you're doing it for a Nobel Peace Prize or you're putting wells in Africa for people to have access to water. I don't care what you're doing. You are wrong. Because you're going to become proud, and inevitably you're going to become resentful, and inevitably you're going to become angry. And hate is the very last thing anyone needs in this world. And all bad, so-called bad, all wrongdoing comes from hate. And so you think you're doing something good by, improving this world, fixing a problem, by leaving it better than you found. So many people say that, right? I just want to leave the world better than I found it, a better place than when I found it. So you think that's what you're doing, but what you're really doing is destroying yourself and destroying it. And vice versa, anything that you do is right if you do it without passion. Because passion, people without passion will never be pushed into anything bad, right? You might be engaged in an activity that objectively is not right. If you have no passion, you will also have no interest in it. But passionate people will say, I can make this right, I can fix this, I can do this, I can do that, I can make it mine. I can prove to people, I can prove to myself this or that thing, and they will stop at nothing to do so. Because otherwise it was a waste. Otherwise they ruined their lives, they wasted their lives, they spent it on nothing, and they cannot accept that. And so they will work on it until it's right in their minds, and therefore they will destroy themselves. Every passionate person is actively in the process of destroying themselves. But the good thing is, this universe, as we talked about before, as soon as you want something, in the realm of ideas, which is where passion lives, you have it. So if you have been consumed by passion even, you can be free of it. Right now, you can be free of it. All it requires is awareness, which is dedication. Everything you put your attention towards is what you are dedicated towards. And if you realize, wow, my attention, I have not only been actively directing it, but it has been out of my control by the passions directed towards hate and anger and resentment and all these things. Wow. Just that one realization will make you become aware. It will shock you. And then it's just about retaining it. To say, this is my awareness. This is me. I am my awareness. Whenever I am swept up by the passions in my awareness, whenever I'm competing with someone, whenever I have pride, whenever also I am dejected and disappointed, I am unaware. Just like the hooligan when they damage property for no reason. They literally don't know what they're doing, why they're doing it, and in their reasonable moments, they would be shocked by that. And they would literally take revenge on someone who did that to them. Because people who are passionate are also the people who believe in the concept of revenge, right? And so if that person found their car flipped over and stomped on, they would try to take revenge on people like that. Yet they themselves are the very person that are doing those kinds of things. And this is the life of passion. It's a life of contradiction, conflict, pain and suffering and anger and resentment and disillusionment and frustration and all of those things. And so, yeah, to me, that's the answer to your question, right? If you can do without passion, you are safe. And you don't need to look at anyone else. Is this thing right that I'm doing? Just look at yourself. Do you have passion for it in the true sense? Then you are wrong. Doesn't matter what you're doing. Are you able to do something and you have no passion? Then you are right. I don't care what you're doing. It's so simple if you think about it. And it, once again, as I always say, everything connects. Everything is one thing. The answer is know thyself. To know if you have passion within yourself, to be honest with yourself and to be able to have that vision in the first place, whether is this passion, is this not passion? That is to know thyself also. And so
thank you. That was an amazing breakdown of it. And I think it's so funny. I'm like, pride really is just the most corrosive, easy trap to fall into. Like you said, I mean, your intentions can be great, but it's so simple to fall into it. So thank you. That was amazing.
All the passions, though, what you just said about pride is so true, but it applies to all the passions. All the passions. People think they love someone, like we talked about last week too, but what they're really doing is hating them. Because what they think love is like a reciprocal relationship. I give you care, I care for you, and then of course that makes me worthy of being the recipient of it. And so you have to do it for me. That's anger. That's resentment. To say, here's this, and you're looking at the other person's hand already for them to give you something. That's not love. That's not love. That's a passion. Right? Like we said before, love is to just wish well. To love someone is to wish them well. And that comes with no expectation. You don't have to prove anything to anyone, including yourself. And you don't have to lift a finger. If you want to, lift mountains. If that's with reason and with goodness and with pure intentions, you feel like you need to go lift a mountain, then go do that. But never, ever out of expectation, out of duty, out of requirement, out of obligation. Never, ever. It will turn into, and already is, resentment. And so, yeah, it goes for all the passions. If we just get good at identifying what passion is and what isn't in the moment, and we can recall ourselves whenever we do identify passion, we say, well, what you're about to do is in passion. and we can stop ourselves, that's it. It's over. It's over. Nothing can happen to you. Not a single thing. And that, once again, yet another definition, is the work of life. To recognize passion and to be able to, in the very moment it is about to occur, to recall yourself from it. That's it. So thank you for that great question. Once again, it is so timeless and so universal, as you yourself pointed out. Like someone in every century could say the same thing. But also in every century, there were people who did not say that because they had the right intentions, because they knew passion from just regular good, proper emotion and intention. And so they didn't. And so just like they accomplished that, we can accomplish that now, today, and forever. And you can do it, and I can do it, and anyone can do it. It's all our so-called problems, issues, challenges are the same, as you can see. Because we're all humans, as those people who defend emotions when they don't even have to say, right? We're all humans, and humans have emotions, right? And so we all have the same emotions, which are in the danger of turning into the same exact passions, and those same exact passions lead to the same exact problems and outcomes. And so that's good news. That means the solutions are also the exact same for all of us. And the solution is know thyself. That's it. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm excited to read the chat. Thank you, guys.
Thank you again. And I will move you back to the audience, invite our next speaker. Thank you. Again, I want to thank you once more, because that truly is the question. Every question is a form of that question, to me, in my opinion. Now it's just like, what is passion? How do we keep ourselves away from it? And how to remain with reason and awareness is everything.
I hope you're doing great, Atesh. I hope everybody is doing great. It's always a pleasure to be among you and have such insightful discussions. And I would really love to dive into the question of the week, because it relates. I mean, all of the discussions we've had, even with Taylor, uh, the first time, it relates to the question of the week. So my personality. So this had me thinking of who I am, who I am, whose personality. So this had me thinking that personality is the result of me existing in this realm, in being exposed to. So I was born and I was exposed to a particular environment, which has led me to have a particular personality. So, in my opinion, my personality helped me by being a reflection of that environment, my own beliefs, as I started to develop awareness and ask questions about, existential questions like, what is the reason of us being here? The fascination about nature and, I mean, the different landscapes and the human experience, like how the human behavior. When I started noticing particular, maybe alignments or lack of alignment with the belief I've developed during the first years I was exposed to that particular environment. So the fact that I was able to study my own behavior under different conditions, like the good and the bad and the in between, and other people's behavior, assess the behaviors regardless of the conditions. Yeah, it helped me distinguish my personality from who I truly am. And this has led me to ask another question, which is, because I'm finding it hard to remember or to determine at which point I have started developing that kind of um, awareness. Awareness, yes. Because I kind of wanted to uh, have a clean distinction between what my personality is and what it reflects. But what it reflects is a mixture of um, conditioning because of the environment and my initial, I would always call this the initial programming, like our nature, our true nature. And this is why I really like the Stoics, and when you always mention that our true nature is reason, I I completely agree with that. But what I want to know, I have arrived at this question, the distinction between my true self, which is my awareness, uh, my soul, like my awareness, the entity that I am, that is experiencing the world, experiencing itself and experiencing the world. And I'm sorry, I lost my chain of thoughts.
So the difference
So
between who you truly are and you were saying
yeah,
between the other thing, which is what?
yes, the other thing is the conditioning, the environment, because that's random, that's random. So I wanted to know the key that has allowed me to kind of always have a virtual barrier between who I am truly and my environment. I've, when I reflected on this, I remember that I had this distinction since I have come to awareness about my environment and myself. Um, so, what I believe, um, because of what I have gone through, discovering this myself, is that our true nature is so our personality is not a representation of our true nature. It could be aligned with uh, our true self, but in order for it to be aligned with our true nature, um, we inevitably have to examine it. But in order for us to examine it, we have to be aware that we're comparing. For example, I tend to, this is a funny story, but I think it would help me explain what how I see this. So I had a colleague of mine, maybe like almost like a couple of years ago. We were just on a break, and she said, Afifa, you know what? I think you're a fake extrovert. And I really liked that because at that particular moment I felt that she saw me, and she was like, I didn't mean anything. She thought maybe I would be offended by it, but and it was the complete opposite. I was like, you know what? It's really nice that you have observed my behavior to the point that you'd be so on point of how I feel on the inside, because there are a lot of personality types and personality traits, but there's no clear line. You are your true self is I would say, the maestro. So you observe what traits you have, or what tendencies you have, how you go about your life, how you interact with people, how you your thoughts, how you speak to yourself, how you think. Uh, you could assess it by the metrics that we already have on the inside. And this is the question that got me, like, because I know for sure that we know what's right. We know if something is appropriate or not, by which standards, uh, if we feel good about it or not, if we feel like we're at peace with something or not. So if we see that something is not bringing us peace, we adjust, and we just we give it up, instantly. You have mentioned this also a few times, but I still want to know if that awareness uh, is there even when we were like still babies, like, or has it, or is it something that um, I don't know, that is reached by a particular age, like a chronological age, or is it something? Now that I'm saying it like this, I feel like it's something that, like I said earlier, it comes with us already. And this has also got me thinking about some doctors saying that for when a baby is birthed, even when they're still very little, it's always nice to, for example, read to them, have good music around so they listen to it, even if they are not aware, but they are actually learning. And this proves, in my opinion, that our personalities help us by being a reflection of our conditioning and our beliefs. And by reflecting all of that, we can easily assess whether or not it's whether or not we are in alignment with our beliefs through our actions, intentions, or personality. Exactly. If our personality reflects uh, those beliefs, and if it is aligned uh, with those beliefs or not. So yeah, that's what I was thinking, and I like the fact that I was processing the last question with you guys, and yeah, um, I'd like to hear what you think about this. If you have further questions, or yeah.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Thank you for sharing that answer, because it is yet again another insight. Just like we were talking to our other speaker who answered the question, and she, to me, it sounds like had a different angle on it. She was looking at personality as something being intrinsic to us, like in our essence, our spirit, as I said when I was talking to her. And you're sort of
Mhm.
saying that your personality to you, it sounds to me like, is something external to you that you use almost like a tool to see what
Mhm.
has been the conditioning on you, or what has been the programming, as you said. What's your background, so to
Right.
speak, and then see
Mhm.
what of that, if any, is really me, is not me. It sort of helps you uh, see those things, perhaps. And so
Mhm.
those are two very different, not that they're opposing or anything, but they're very different ways of thinking about personality. And that's what's so interesting to me. And that's what the question of the week is helping us all bring out, all these different angles, literally two very different. I don't think they could be more different, because it's internal versus external in that sense. And so that's very interesting. And that's helpful for me to also see how much variation there can be in not only personalities themselves, but even of what nature they are. Are they inside of us? Are they outside of us? Are there our conditioning? Are there our essence and spirit, like we say? What is it, right? And we all have to decide
Right.
that for ourselves. And that's a big part of knowing thyself, to say, am I my personality, or am I something else? And is personality, and then another question is my personality even beneficial to me? If no, why not?
Right.
If yes, how and why? And the million things that can come out of that. So that's why it's so interesting to me. And we'll save that response that you said, which is very interesting. And I will still save mine for the very end, just because I also know that the things that you're saying are
Mhm.
going to be included in my own response, and it's going to be in relation to that. So effectively, I will be
Um.
adding a few things to that, or responding to that. And so we'll say that just a little bit longer. We are almost at the end anyway. I'm just thinking I might take one more caller, see what they would like to say, and maybe also
Yes.
respond to the question. And then we'll get back to the question of the week at the end. Okay?
Yes. Just one more thing I want to
Yeah.
add, Atish, real quick. Although, as you have just said, they're different, but I totally agree with Noble thinking that it might be intrinsic, but the way I see it, um, as the inevitable consequence of a human being birthed. So as we come with our true nature, this part that we will, it's like the avatar, it's part of the avatar. We have a body and a personality, so it's intrinsic. We'll definitely have one, but yeah, the way I see it, like I said, it's a reflection. It helps us assess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very interesting. So it can be used as a tool, and maybe it's neither good nor bad. It's just something that we can, depending on its use, we make something that is
Right.
beneficial to us or not, right? So yeah, that's an interesting
Hmm.
way to think about it. So, okay, I thank you for that. I'll put you back to the audience
Thank
for
you.
now. And thank you again for your responses. Clearly, you've been thinking about it with your full attention and awareness, which is the most important thing. And things just naturally are going to come out of it. That's why I say it's so important for us to just give our attention to something, because we don't need to have all the answers, and we don't need to know the why and the how. If we just give a simple question like this or any other, our attention, or maybe sometimes a sentence, just a single sentence that we read somewhere or hear somewhere, and we just listen to it or we read to it or we think about it with our actual full attention, the things that might come out of that potentially are limitless. And so it's more of an opening up than to be responsible for the result. You can be a receiver. You can be a conduit for thoughts, for ideas. That's how they really come about anyway. We don't create them. So attention is everything. And I will take our next speaker. We have time for one more speaker, so I'll do that.
But in that, are we not always looking at it in retrospect? Like, for example, if I took a decision in the past or did, like, I can only see back that this is what I did, and I did not live, or live, was aware or was not aware, which will not be very useful. It will tell something about me and will be directive. But going forward, for example, my question was, how does one decide between doing this or that, basically? How does one say that, okay, I am not, the action that I'm doing right now do not lead me into an awareness. I do not want to come to realize 10 years from now that in the 10 years following, I was unaware, I was not living, I was like, the whole idea about being unaware is that you are unaware. How like, what I'm getting at? How do you know which action is which?
The person who is you in 8 years and what they're gonna want from you and what's gonna satisfy that person or not going to satisfy that person is an illusion. So whenever you think of that person in the present as you are doing now, you are being unaware. That person doesn't exist. It's an illusion. You see what I'm saying? That is an example of how to use our future projection capabilities for not at all supporting the present moment and not supporting awareness. That person that you're thinking of does not exist. And if that person did exist, they would want you to not think about them. They would want you to focus on yourself the way you are now and to see, what passions do I fall into? Why am I so emotional? Why do I get angry? Don't I see that every time I get angry, I do something unreasonable, something that I regret, or at the very least, something that I don't approve of? And so what's better for a future you, if this person existed, than for you right now to examine and to let go of anger and everything else that makes you go unaware? This work, you don't need the future for, or the past. Again, you can draw from the past. You can say, whenever I have been angry, I have done something that I've come to disapprove of. And so why would I do that again? For example, that can help you to let go of anger, right? And so in that way, you're using the past constructively, productively, and properly in the service of the now, in the service of awareness. And so that's all you need to focus on. And just like our question of the week, our prior question of the week points out, what is more important, intention or outcome? We said all that you need to focus on is your intention. If your intention is right, nothing can happen to you. Nothing. Not now, not 8 years from now. And if there was such a person that truly existed, the you 8 years into the future, what more could they benefit from than you thinking like this to say, I am only going to focus on my intention, make my intention right?
Actually, that does answer my question. Because I was about to ask, the next thing that came to me was that's a very slow process, because I came to figure anger is corrosive to me, is not good for me. In, let's say, 20 years, let's say the time is going to reduce with every other such angles of unawareness or things that are going on. Let's say, for example, I'm prideful or very fearful, and I don't even realize that. But every time I do that, it's going to take me next 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, more. I don't know. So where do we go with that? And I think the last question of the week, which was focusing on what's more important, intention or outcome. That really puts things in perspective for me now. Like, yeah, it does, because it's like, what was the intention? What was I trying to do? I was trying to be more aware. It so happened that I did not get there. Fine, my intention was correct, but outcome, okay. We'll try. There's no time limits, or there's no deadline to it, anyways. So
absolutely,
that answers.
And the fact that you letting go of your anger or becoming more aware or living in the moment, to learn that is going to take a long time, is also just a narrative. You don't know that, right? And if I said it takes a long time, that doesn't make it so. Or if I said you can have it in an instant, that doesn't make it so. It's a narrative. We need to let go. No, I know what you meant, but it's a form of expectation. Anything we say about anything in that regard and of that nature is an expectation. And part of becoming more aware and living more in awareness is to let go of expectations. And I always say, right, every now and then anyway, that we should never ever ask how much longer. That question in itself comes from unawareness. It's the part of us, the ego, the not you, the identities that try to get us into fear and to let go of this work by saying, you've been doing it for so long already and there's such little progress. Like, you're going to be doing this till the end of your life. You're never going to get there. So you might as well give up. You might as well give in to what we're saying. You might as well give in to the passions. It's so much easier. Just be drifting. But what does it matter if it takes a day or 100 years? It's the only thing worth doing. And as we always point out, every single step of it is its own reward. It never leaves us wanting. We always say, wow, I just feel like I discovered a whole new world. And the next time you say the same thing. And so you might wonder, well, how many more worlds am I going to discover? Is this infinite? Is this end? What does it matter? Every time you're discovering a whole new world. I mean, if you died right then and there, wouldn't that be fine? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, every step is such a big reward. It's almost like you're at the end of the journey because you discover this whole new thing. But it keeps happening and it keeps happening. Now, is that a bad thing? I don't think so. Whatever needs to happen. But like I said, it's the only thing worth doing. So the question of how long is this going to take is, again, a time question. It's not a question that is in the now. It keeps referencing the future, which does not exist. So you have your intention right. You have your attention focused on intention. And you're just aware and you're present and you're examining yourself and you're looking at emotions and keeping them in check and not letting yourself be swept up by the passions. What can happen to you? Nothing. And you will be at peace now. You will be aware now, right? And so that's all you need to maintain. And you're going to, again, see, I shouldn't even say that. I was going to say you're going to become unaware every now and then. That's another narrative. I shouldn't say that. Maybe you're never going to go unaware again. So we don't know that. But I'm just saying, if it happens that you go unaware every now and then, or however many times, it's fine. Come back to awareness. Because the present moment is always there. Underneath all your burdens, all your troubles, or all your anxieties, worries, and regrets, there is always peace. Underneath all of that, underneath it, is always peace. It's just obstructed by those things. Your vision is obstructed of peace. But it's always there. So if it gets obstructed, if it gets covered up, uncover it again, and it's always there for you. So whenever you come back to it, you'll come back to it. It will be there. You will never come back to where peace was and awareness is and find that it's gone, it's left you behind. It's never going to happen. It's the very foundation that all things stand on. And as many times as you fall off of it, you can come back to it. Which is not to say, oh, don't
You're
worry
right.
about falling off, about going unaware. Just, you'll come back to it every time. No, I do make an effort. It's the most important thing for us to be aware. And we never know when we go unaware if we're ever going to come back to it. We don't know that for sure either. But fact is that it is always there for us. So it's a mix. It's a balance, right? It's a balance of do put effort into staying aware. But if it does happen that you slip off of it, you can come back to it again and again and again. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it does answer it, and I think at some point, what came to my mind when you were saying that this is the only thing to do. Many times when I don't know, sometimes I am being questioned, like philosophy or the related topics, religion things. I've been associated with these topics, on and off for 6-7 years now. Like I just got interested in that in 2018 or so, and then it has been growing on me, and now sometimes I would have this question of, but why do I even do this? And then right now I have a very good answer to it. Like it just comes naturally, which is, what else is there to do? What else
Exactly.
is there to do? So yeah, when you were saying that comes to my mind very often. Like, what is that? What else is, I've been given this life, and there are a lot of human activities that I must do. But in the end, I think this is what really matters. I really believe that. So this is what matters. I also wanted to answer the question of the week.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
So
the question of the week, to one more say, I don't think I think I only mentioned it once. The question of the week is, how does your personality benefit you?
Okay. So first thing I thought about was, so I've written it down, some of it. So is personality the same as identity? That's the first thing that came to my mind. And I thought that identity and personality are not the same. Identity is more sticky. It's more hideous. I'm not even aware. I can associate something to myself for many, many years. It can be the same as personality. It can be something I'm aware of. Like, I believe personality is a subset of identity. So identity is sometimes so hideous we don't even realize that it's there. While personality, a subset of identity, is very liquid. I don't know how many of us have played like some games such as GTA 5 or something like that, where we are controlling a character. The character does what we do. And we can sometimes realize that, we are controlling this character whose name is Shivam in my case. And I take him here and there and make him do this or that and making his career and whatever. But I'm very aware of that. At least for the longest time I've been able to see that, this is what I am making it do. And that whatever I want to be, for example, I want to go into finance and want to become such and such person. Why is that? Because those are the kind of books I read. Those are the kind of people I was with. That was my education that bought my personality on me. That's how I would like to look, and the kind of clothes I wear, the kind of people I hang around with. It really came because of things that were out of my control. But I'm aware of it in a certain way. In a very loose sense, I'm still aware of it. So that's how I define personality. So is it good for me or is it bad for me? That was the question. I believe personality has done more harm to me than any good. That's what I wrote. Uh, because it basically makes me believe something that I am. It is in the, well, okay, I'll say it exactly as I wrote it. I said that I'm a very bad liar. That is true. If I'm lying to you, you'll know it. It's just, I'm not really good at it. And for a long time, I was very unhappy about it. Very unhappy because there were people I knew they were so good at it. You could not tell it until they told you, like, oh okay, I didn't catch that. And that was like, I was very unhappy because I believe that is the personality that I wanted. That was something I, in my own ways, was looking forward to, like, in order to, because the thing I valued, career progression, money, fame, was where, what it required. And I believe it kept me in that cycle for very long, of believing that this is me, this is who I am, this is uh, uh, that this fact that I am not able to lie well is a bad thing. That very thing was something I was not able to see. So personality is something that has done more bad to me, done more harm to me, by making me um, blind to my own faults, or to myself, to making me more unaware in a way. I'm not able to see that, okay, such things matter in life and such things actually don't. These things, which is which company I work for, how much money I make, or what school I went to, I'm coming to realize, and not every day it happens. Sometimes but today more and more, I come to see that these things are not, not the most important things, and what is important is are more on the level of ideas. Yeah, but it has come after a long thought process, and the thing that kept me from it was mainly my personality, in a way. And personality, as I said, is linked to identity. So that's how I see it. It's I think a subset of identities, how I see it, and thus because identities are not good for us, so nor is personality. That's my answer.
Amazing. Thank you for that. And you're, of course, absolutely right. Personality in some way or another has to be linked to identity. Everything that is personal. Otherwise, it would not be part of our personality because everyone would be the same. We don't tend to mention those things that we have in common with everyone as our personality. Only the things that in some way or another set us apart. And so you're absolutely right about that. And I appreciate that answer. And we're adding that to the pool of answers just by listening to it. We have that, and I'm sure many people have taken a lot of things from that. Thank you very much for not only sharing your insights, but also your answer to the question of the week and everything that you've shared. I think it's very valuable. And I'll move you back to the audience. Thank you very much once again. And it's amazing how many different points of view we collected on this seemingly very simple, silly little question that we have this week. And of course, the question is, how does your personality benefit you? And so now is the time, as we always do, at the end of the first week of every question of the week. They go for 2 weeks. I give my own answer and my own reflection, so to speak, on the question of the week. And concerning this question of the week, I would like you to notice how in every single piece of art, a narrative, fictional piece, whatever it may be, a movie, a book, music, a theater play, whatever it may be, the most effective, the most beautiful, the most divine seeming works of fiction, narrative, whatever it may be, those that feel most personal are the ones that are most impersonal. I said that before about giving the example of meditations that Marcus Aurelius wrote. He doesn't mention anything personal and writes only about the impersonal. And that now to the reader 2,000 years later, it feels like the most personal thing. This is a person who has lived about 2,000 years ago, who was a Roman emperor, living in totally different ways than we live now in terms of the day-to-day practical. What do we have? Why does it feel so personal, so direct? And how does he know us so well? And so I want you to notice how the most personal things, the things that are most personal to you, are the things that are most irrelevant to pretty much everyone else. And this is, you might say, sad but true. I don't think it's sad, but it's one of those things where it makes us realize, does that mean all my family, all my friends, when they listen to my troubles, they actually don't care? It's true. They don't. I know they put on a face. I know they say, I feel for you. I know they say, I'm sorry. Or I know they say, I'll support you and I'll do whatever you want, whatever you need from me because I love you. But they don't care about the thing itself. They're just fulfilling their role, their so-called duty, their so-called dedication, their obligations to you. And this is what we talked about, especially last week, about the difference between care and love, right? Most people, the vast majority of people who listen to your problems and shed a tear for you, or tell you that you're in a really bad way, but that they understand and that you're being so strong and how well you're dealing with it, even though what this terrible person and the terrible thing they did to you, and that you can overcome it, and that you're not going to let this beat you. They're not telling you the truth. They don't really care. And if they care, they do so for selfish reasons because they know these things are going to befall them too one day, or have befallen themselves in the past, and you were there to do the same function for them. But what they're doing unknowingly and unwillingly, if they truly love you, is that they're reinforcing your personality to you, all the things that are personal to you. A true friend, as we always say here, is a person who makes you remember, not a person who makes you forget. And what there is to remember is, that's not you. Your troubles are not you. What has happened to you is not you. Your nationality is not you, your age, your occupation, what others think about you, your own goals, your dreams, your wishes, None of those are you. Your personality type is not you. Your expectations are not you. Your degrees are not you. Your job performance or how popular you are in your friend circle, in your school, in your workplace, whatever it may be, that's not you. Yet, whenever someone says something disrespectful to us at work, at school, wherever we are, and we go tell a friend, they say, how unbelievable, how rude for them to do that to you. Why don't they say, you do know that that person does not know who you are, and so when they attack you, they're not really attacking you? Because all they see is an image that they are projecting onto you. And that's what, in the most common sense, the way most people use the word personality, that's what our personality is. But it's not really us. A personality is how we project ourselves to the world, so that they have a few suggestions or a few basic things to pick from when they're assembling their image of us that they're going to project back onto us. It's nothing more than that. And notice how everything that is personal to you is constricting. Because you say, I am a woman of this age and I have this job, and so a woman of my background, of my age, of my culture, of my occupation acts this certain way. And you dress a certain way, and you speak a certain way, and you make certain decisions based on that. And so you're narrowing everything that this world is truly to you. You're narrowing it down to something oddly specific. Very, very oddly and very, very specific. And why? That's what I would like us to ask ourselves. Why? And again, notice how the most personal things to us are the most irrelevant things to others. Everything that happens to your neighbor is such a big deal to them, right? A window breaks on their house, and you hear about it, you couldn't care less. And why should you? Because it's not important. But to them, it's so important. So which perspective should we adopt? The neighbor's perspective to their own window in their own house, or the universe's perspective to that neighbor and his or her window? Which perspective is more universal? Which perspective is objectively more true, more important? And if we did adopt the universal perspective on anything, guess what the first things we would shed would be? It would be every single thing that makes up our personality. We're all looking for something to guide us through the various situations that are inevitably and uncontrollably going to occur in our lives. But what if we give ourselves to truth and to justice and to love? Can we ever go wrong? And what part of us giving ourselves to truth, to justice, to love requires our personality? No part. In fact, it requires us to take off our personality. The more personality we have, the more things we have that are so personal to us, the more things we put above truth, above justice, above love. We say, of course, ideally, I would like to love every human being, but there are certain human beings who don't want me to have my job. And my job is my living. So how can I love them? I can't. And so we fall out of love. And we say, to achieve certain things, there are so many people who lie and cheat and deceive in this life. To achieve certain things for us that are so necessary for myself, well, I'm going to have to do some of that lying too, in order to not to give myself a competitive disadvantage. And so we let go of truth. And justice and fairness and kindness along with it. And so truly, everything that makes up your personality is what constricts you. And every single thing that is part of it that you let go brings you closer, not further, to a life that is guided by fairness, by truth, by kindness, by love, by beauty, by goodness, and by truth. And the more you let go of personality, the more everything that you say, everything that you do becomes more relevant to the entire world, across space and time. As we talked about Marcus Aurelius, he's not only all the way in Rome, but he's also all the way 2,000 years ago. And still is one of our favorite things to read, because every time we read it, we say, how is he sitting next to me right now? How does he know me? How did he know about this about me before I even knew it? He knew it because he let go of so many things, not everything, that was so personal to him. And through that very act, he and many other people like him have reached truth and beauty and goodness and love and kindness and awareness. And I'm telling you, at the core of every single religion, every single philosophy that is earnestly after truth, this is underneath all of them. It is this. It is to let go of the personal and to adopt the universal will, the universal wish, the universal perspective, and the universal standard, not your personal standard and not your personal perspective. And once again, I want to remind you that there are two realms that we live in. One's the physical, the other one's the spiritual. I am speaking of the spiritual realm. When a police officer approaches you for some reason and says, "Hey, what's your name? What's your identity? Give me your identification." You don't say, "I am just awareness. I am truth. I am love. And I don't really exist. And I've let go of everything that is personal. I am not my age. I am not my address." You don't say that because you're in the physical realm. And you go give them your identification card. If you're at the airport, you go give them your passport. All I'm saying is, don't identify with your passport. Your passport is your passport. It's not you. And if you keep this in mind, you will be able to have the universal perspective, to not be thrown about by passion, by the random things that occur in the world. You will have that peace, that reason, that awareness, that understanding, and that universal perspective, and still function in the world, and still go to your job, do your work, and in fact, do it much better than you did it before, because you're free of all these illusions, preconceived notions of how things should be, how people should act, what respect is, what love is, and that people at the workplace need to treat you in a certain way to show respect. Otherwise, you are personally attacked, and all that mess. You will want nothing from anyone and perfectly function in all the logistical areas in your life that you need to function, that you want to function in, as a parent, as a worker, as a person driving a car on the street, as a passenger at the airport, whatever it is. You need to understand these two realms and never mix them together. So in that sense, like many of the speakers today expressed, personality is beneficial because it can help you navigate the physical world. Again, when the police officer asks, or when your coworker says this or that, and you can present certain things that are your personality, that makes things smoother, it makes things easier, and it's necessary for certain logistical things to be accomplished. But as soon as you, in the spiritual realm, identify with those things, you will suffer. If you think your personality is you will suffer. But again, at the same time, personality is also not a bad thing necessarily. It's a tool to be used, just like your passport. You know that you're not your passport, but you go give it and you use it, and that's how you travel. And that's how you experience things and meet people and do things, if that's what you want to do. But it is not you. If you thought it was you, you would be worrying about the expiration date on it. You would think its expiration date is your death. But that's exactly what we do when we identify as an honest person. It's my personality that I'm an honest person, and I actually identify with that on the spiritual level. What happens then is everyone who denies or simply doesn't know about the fact that I'm an honest person becomes a danger to me. And I'm trying to go prove things to them that I really am that honest, as everyone says, or as I say. And I'm trying to prove it to myself. And everyone who misunderstands me, who thinks I'm not so honest because of a misunderstanding, becomes a source of anxiety and regret and shame and guilt. And how can I do this better? And how can I show it to this person? So I just want us for the coming week to consider which personality, to which realm personality belongs. It belongs in the physical realm, there and there only. And any amount that it spills over in terms of identifying with it into the spiritual realm, into the realm of ideas, into what you truly are, which is none of your personality, by the way, to that degree we suffer. Try to look at it that way this coming week and see if you notice that to the degree that you identify with your personality, you suffer to that very degree. Because realize that if there was no single human being on earth, you would have no need of a personality. Would that then mean that you don't exist? So much of our suffering is caused by that confusion. And so let's think about that this week, how the most personal things are at the same time the most irrelevant things to other people. And the more impersonal we become to ourselves and to others, the more personal the world becomes to us, and the more personal we become to the world. It's the most amazing thing. And notice that also, again, there's so many things to notice in this question. Like I started talking about, in every piece of literature, the most impersonal feels the most personal. Because that's what contains the most timeless and universal ideas, truths in it. And that's ultimately what we benefit from. Truth.